Hey, alright, hopefully back for the last part of this, part 5. We'll see if I can get it in 5, it might be 6. Alright, so anyway, so it said, though the devil will always take advantage of any potential crisis found among humanity, a sovereign God is bringing this to pass in order to accelerate the end-time plan for the culmination of, whoops, hold on. Oh, no. Alright, having all kinds of problems here. Hang on. The day of man, leading to the man of sin, which will then lead to the coming of Christ, who will finally set up his kingdom. Will God use this crisis to bring the final overthrow of America, with the last step loading it into a complete socialistic government, excuse me, simply for survival? Will this be a final step when the government will become responsible for everything of man, including his physical and mental health, his postmodernist education, his food rationing, his appointed housing? All the nations being forced to such government control will lead to an authoritarian control, and finally a coming one world ruler. Yep, one world order. One world ruler, the Antichrist. The end time, following the pattern of Genesis 6, will be consumed in the obsession of the flesh. Yep. Note Satan's word to God in Job 2, 4, and 5. Skin for skin, ye all that man hath will he give for his life. But put forth thine hand now, and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. By observing man for many centuries, Satan knew what this true man in general, this was true of man in general, sorry. If man is smitten to his bone and he feels the fullness of his pain, he will do anything. The great crisis of 9/11 in New York City and Washington, D.C. pressed our government to take greater authority in overseeing its citizens' security, especially regarding travel. Many times traveling through airports, they invade our luggage, our bodies, and our personal items. What will this present worldwide? What will this present worldwide crisis bring? This present worldwide crisis, bring about concerning new government controls in our lives and economy. These changes by the government will be presented as the need for our government, for our health and home. The closing down of schools will affect the breakfasts and lunches of children for whom the government provides. Will governments now take the meals to our homes, a further invading of our private lives? We have also been alarmed to hear of many public influential leaders who have boldly denounced our president for calling a day of prayer recently. God is being denied both in present and in prayer. We must pray for the Lord's soon coming. Conclusion: when the Cold War with Russia ended, there came a widespread thawing in hostilities. The nations and their economies began the process of trying to conglomerate excuse me, the separate nationalistic entities for more of a worldwide economy. But the United States is now caught in this economic web of perplexity with China, Japan, and Russia, and even with the faltering NATO alliance. This present distress has come upon the earth in a philosophically demanding upon this earth is now I can't even say it. Demanding the nations of the earth to come together as a new world order. Although this call has certainly been, whoo, man, he went on in this thing, but it's a lot of good stuff. Demanding for decades now may be the prelude season for the coming of the Antichrist. Yep. The crisis could plunge not only the United States but all other nations in a worldwide recession, affecting every compartment of the economy. We could be standing on the edge of a worldwide economy crisis in which no one economy, no one nation, no one union will be able to excruciate the world from perilous troubles. The Bible predicts that such an era is coming, fueled by the world's economy convulsions. The only answer will seem to be the unification of the nations under one economic system and one world or ruler. Ironically, the country of China, from which this virus has allegedly originated, manufactures the majority of America's drugs and vaccines. The world has entered the panic and hysterical cry to be saved from an unknown virus. Is this global crisis the act of God pressing the world to come to a brink of worldwideism that will lead to the coming of Antichrist? Perhaps we may have thought that such a unification of the nations under one economic system and one world ruler would have come about by a process of gradually consolidation of wealth and power, both nationally and worldwide. But such a pathetic reality could happen with the rise of a worldwide urgency as we are witnessing at this hour. And such a man may be simply standing in the wings of a present world history, ready to make his entrance onto the stage of a desperate world. When he appears, the world will embrace him. He will have all the answers to the problems of mankind, and when the whole world is lauding at his praises, he will rise in global power and unveil his satanic plan that will include the destruction of all who will not fall down and worship him. A worldwide crisis amidst a worldwide economy will be the key to bring him into prominence. In the final 3.5 years of Daniel's week, no one will be able to buy or sell without his permission. This will include medicine, surgeries, and basic needs of existence. He will control all the finances and businesses of the world. The technology at the time will be so advanced he will be able to control it all, every nation and every individual. May God grant us discernment in how we live in these dark, desperate, and perilous times. It was said of the tribe of Issachar that they had understanding of the times, which is so important in this crucial hour, but also it was said that they had understanding to know what Israel ought to do. This is too equally important. May God grant us both insights for this hour. Perhaps a distinction should be made between the plagues God's past preachers faced in their appointed and worldwide crisis of our present day. Drawing from the biblical perspective, these past faithful ministers addressed their local congregations about local and regional crisis. Martin Luther had to address the Black Plague that swept through Wittenberg, Germany in 1527, just as Charles Spurgeon had preached concerning the cholera epidemic that erupted in London in 1854. They faithfully ministered to the needs of God's people at those times. In contrast, this coronavirus should be considered somewhat differently rather than a regional or continental crisis. This virus is sweeping the entire plane. As a result, massive shifts are occurring. Massive shifts, occurring throughout the world. Governments that are influencing control of humanity. Our concern is beyond the virus or plague itself. The crisis has inspired and facilitated much preliminary work that will be needed to establish before the coming Antichrist. And it goes on to, no, that was it. Okay, so we got all the way through it. Thank you guys. I hope you listened to all 5-part